when I was sitting at the aid station still, a lot of them drop.
Drop later, right? Okay. All right, we are live. What's up, crew? Welcome to the after show with Jamil Curry. We're going to keep him around and answer any of the remaining questions that you have for him or the Whistler Alpine Meadow 100 miler and stuff like that. And then we'll let Jamil go and we'll talk about Kim's 110K race. But I'm just fascinated by these 100-mile stories because the summiting of Whistler twice in two different directions just sounds brutal. And you add weather on top of that, and I can't even imagine. And there are a lot of runners out there who had to tackle some of these peaks and climbs in that weather. How was the weather for you throughout your experience? Did it ever get bad?
Oh, great weather. I mean, we got really lucky. It started raining within 15 minutes after I finished.
Wow.
But before that, it was pretty much perfect. I mean, Blackcomb was kind of socked in with clouds, but I mean, we had a starry night, and then, it was just perfect. Sunshine, a lot of it. It was great.
Wow.
Sorry, 110K runners.
Well, like for the first half of our race, it was great. It was way warmer than I had anticipated it being.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we had so many layers of protection for you, like backups on backups on backups, knowing that the weather was going to go south. But the front 50K was like
so beautiful.
Perfect weather, perfect warmth and everything. Okay, so if you are watching here live in this after show and you want to get into the live chat room, just click anywhere on the video. It'll take you over to the live chat room on the YouTube page. That's where Kim's going to pull all the questions that she doesn't already have. But let's get to it. Go for it, Ben.
Yeah, Jean in the chat room wants to know, do you see any differences between races in Canada and the U.S.?
No bean burritos. That's my answer. I don't know.
Do you have bean burritos at your races?
Oh, yeah. Every time.
Man.
You better sign up for one of those night races so you can get burritos.
I know, and I want to do the night race just so I can eat a burrito. That's the only reason. Dude, it took you 10 hours to do 30K? Yeah, but I got free burritos. I was out there the whole time.
Thomas in the chat room says, question for Jamil. It was great talking to you at Mogollon Monster. Do you have any good stories from that race weekend? Did you hear anything about shooting going on at the rim near Turkey Springs?
Mogollon.
Yeah. Mogollon, you got it. Mogollon. I
actually learned that from Jamil on the show when we had him on talking about Mogollon. Yeah,
listen, I tried.
It's hard. It's a weird word.
Yeah, so interesting stories this year. Tony Russ, he's a runner from New Mexico, pretty good friend. He ran from his doorstep in New Mexico to the race, 380 plus miles in like the week prior, and then he ran the 100-mile race. So it was close to 500 miles in about a week. It was a pretty incredible story. And he was leading the race the first 25 miles.
Oh my God.
Like, I saw him bounding down off Turkey Springs, and I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I just want to win the marathon distance of the 100. I'm like, oh my God. And then of course it ends up biting him later. He's like sleeping on a cot, and but he finished. So it was cool.
Wow.
That was a great story. Yes, there was reports of people like to camp on the edge of the Mogollon Rim. It's the edge of the Colorado Plateau that's like over all the Four Corners states. So you've got this like 200-mile cliff band essentially is the Mogollon Rim. It's this 1,500-foot cliff face, really cool. People like to go up there and camp and apparently just shoot their guns off the top. As if no one's below or there's no trails. But yeah, there were reports that runners were saying there was like bullets in the area where they were running. So yeah, we're going to have some discussions with the Forest Service about that one because they should be out there patrolling. I think it's always in this one area. Just, I don't know. So things you don't think about.
Yeah, it happened at Cascade Crest, and I think it's happened, not that the runners were at risk or anything, but the areas that the runners run through in certain parts of the Cascade Mountains are like, people will go camp and bring firearms and fire them off and stuff like that.
There's a lot of gunfire this year.
Yeah, but you could hear it. So like from the course, you're just hearing gunfire, and you don't know if you're getting close to it, if it's aimed at anything, if they're aiming, it's just that it sucks. It sucks to be near something that you can't control, or you don't know that they don't know that you're there and that you're not an animal, or that sort of thing.
Well, it's tough because we're all land users, and we want to we all have different interests for the outdoors, and firearms is part of it, and most people are responsible, I think, but for the ones that aren't, that's where it gets scary. So yeah, trying to address that is it's obviously important. It's important to us as race directors. Don't want that.
But that looks like a super brutal race. I know you've talked to us about that in the past. It's a ton of gain, really technical, right?
Yeah, there's some really technical. It's a mix. It's a great mix, actually. There's the really technical sections in the high line. Below the rim, basically gets all the rain comes off the rim, and it just like erodes away all the trails and everything. So it's kind of really rugged and rocky and fun. Kind of fun. And then up top, it's really smooth. There's pine trees, pine needles, and it's really, really great running up there. So yeah, it's a really good mix. You're kind of going up and down the rim multiple times.
Sweet. I'll let you keep going.
Yeah, there's a couple questions in the main show and in the post show just talking about some general aspects of your WAM race, what shoes you were wearing, and maybe if you could just do a quick nutrition rundown.
Yeah, I was using the Salomon Ultra Pro, which is the same shoe I wore at the Tahoe 200 last year. It's based upon the S-Lab version of Francois' shoe, which is the S-Lab Ultra, and now they have the S-Lab Ultra 2. So it's a little bit more of a consumer version of that one. It works really well for me. It's a shoe this was right out of the box. I threw them on, ran 105 miles. I think I had like a little bit of a toe blister on each toe, but I think it was mostly due to my like cheap Target socks than the shoes themselves. So still looking for that major sock sponsor,
I was like, once a Barker, always a Barker. Just like Target socks, anything you can get at Walmart, good to go.
I always lose my socks, so when I can buy a bundle for a few bucks, it's great.
Costco.
And nutrition wise, so what was great about the aid stations, they had these giant tin trays of roasted potatoes with salt and pepper on them. Just like these baby potatoes that had cut up. And I think they got them from a local cafe. Gary was saying they make them every year, and they were some of the best thing I've ever had at a race. So I was just basically eating potatoes at every aid station, and then in between supplementing with some goos, some chews, some trail mix, just like seeds and nuts, and what else? A little bit of candy, some Swedish fish.
I saw Swedish fish and Sour Patch Kids in your drop bag.
I didn't get to the Sour Patch until the drive to the airport on Sunday morning when there's no coffee shops open, and I'm like falling asleep at the wheel. I'm like, sugar.
Because you didn't have, you probably didn't have
that
enough.
Monster Energy drink then.
Oh, I'm so sorry I popped it open too early.
No, I needed it.
Nathaniel in the chat room has a question. He says, Jamil, as a runner and race director, do you study how other race directors promote and host their events?
Always. Yeah. Always keep my eyes open, always trying to learn and improve. That's my answer. I don't know. I'm always absorbing.
A question from A2B2 in the chat room. Unrelated to WAM, there's been some construction in the Four Peaks trailhead lot. How will this affect setup for Javelina?
Great question. So it's good and bad, I think. They added a restroom where Javelina is hosted in that parking lot now. Only kind of drawback, or if I had some criticism for their decision, is they put it in the parking lot, not next to the parking lot. So they put it right over where our course goes, first off.
Oh.
And then they have these little desert islands in the parking lot, which are kind of cool. They're kind of scattered here and there. They bulldozed one of these islands with like cactus and trees in it. And then they installed this giant pit that I guess is used for something having to do with the restroom. I don't think the number 2 goes there, but maybe the number 1 goes there, the liquids, and it's somehow diffused out. I don't know how this stuff works. I'm not an environmental engineer, but there's kind of now this unsightly giant pit in the middle of our staging area. So yeah, we will adapt. We'll make the course go around the new bathrooms, but we actually have more potable water in the parking lot. There's more power now, so those are the silver lining, I guess.
Just put a bunch of skeletons in the pit.
Or like Tough Mudder style and have to go through the pit.
Go through the pit. That's right. Maybe
we don't know if it's number one.
You're so
or number
disappointed
two.
in me for that suggestion.
If Jamil is Laz, you just gave Laz the best idea ever, and now Jamil's
or like the
do it.
the dropped runners have to go there.
Oh,
that'd be so bad.
If you drop, that's cool, but you got to go sit in the pit of pee or poop. Disgusting. Keep going.
Mike in the chat room says, does Aravaipa plan on hosting races on the East Coast? Wishful thinking, I'm sure.
No immediate plans to. I think for us to pull that off, we'd have to probably find the right person or group to partner with over there to make something like that happen. So that's all I got for you.
A question from Make an Effort in the chat room. Jamil, what's your vision for trail running and video moving forward?
For trail running and video? That's what it says?
That's what it says.
Just all virtual reality. No, I don't know. Personally, what I would like to see more of is, I guess, just more stories, more inspiring stories about real people in the sport. I think there's a lot of untold tales that aren't getting captured and shared that could be. So that's what I'd like to see more of that. I think it'd be really cool. Yeah.
Do you like one more?
Yeah, let's do one more.
Kim Wrinkle in the chat room says, Jamil, can you rank the difficulty in order of Hard Rock, Endora, and Wham, and perhaps the hardest feature on each?
I mean, Endora is first, and then Hard Rock, and then Wham. They're all tough. I don't know that I would put any others above Wham that I've done. UTMB is probably close, similar. Was it toughest of each one?
Toughest feature.
Hardest feature.
Yeah, hardest feature.
Let's see. Andorra. There was a crazy chain section. It's so long ago, I don't remember the name of it. Hard Rock, probably climbing up Grant Swamp Pass in the direction that I always run the race at mile 85 is absolutely brutal. It's the kind of climb that's a complete scree slope. For every one step up, it's 2 steps backwards. And Wham, I think it's got to be the double Whistler mountain climb, like the whole thing going down and up. The middle section there, at one point, Gary has signs out that say, I think it says steep danger or danger slow or something.
Danger slow, yeah.
And it's very good that he puts those out, because if you're kind of just cruising down, I mean, you'd slip on some roots and probably go right off the mountain. So that'd probably be my answer for that.
Crazy. Again, Jamil, huge congratulations to you, man. It's awesome to sort of get a recap from you. I know that you're looking forward to the recovery. So relax, enjoy this week. I know you're probably going to get busy and start ramping stuff up for Javelina. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, we're so excited to be finally coming down.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so pumped.
So we'll touch base, obviously, before Javelina. We're going to start. Let's talk about Kim's 110K, but we are going to let Jamil go. Dude, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for taking the time.
All right. Talk soon.
See ya.
Bye. Sweet. So Jamil is gone. Let's talk about him. No, I'm just kidding. I want to make sure that the screen, let's cut what I wanted to.
Oh,
Sorry.
boy. Oh, boy.
Sorry, that was the intro credits. I just want this. There we go. What'd you push?
I pushed that one and then that one.
I don't know which one that is. So Kim.
Hi.
Let's talk about your 110-kilometer race. You've obviously been training for this for a long time.
Correct. I have.
How'd you feel going into it?
So I feel like I don't have a lot to say. I don't know why I don't have a lot to say, but I think I've shared with some of you already that I really wanted to sign up for the 110K last year, but I couldn't find the courage to even sign up last year. Like I was still feeling the burn of the Cascade Crest DNF, and I wasn't really feeling confident. And just the fact that Wham, all of the distances are just very difficult
They're very
races.
tough.
Yeah.
A lot of vert, a lot of technical.
Yeah, exactly. And so last year couldn't sign up, didn't sign up. So this year registration opened, signed up right away, felt like really excited, really happy. Um, and I had one of the best training cycles that I've ever had, probably the best training cycle that I've ever had.
Yep.
Like more vert, more distance, more kind of confident building stuff, knowing that I couldn't have a pacer and knowing that there was long stretches where I wasn't going to see crew.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of my long runs solo. So a lot of 20 milers, 25 milers, just slogging by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Healthy, stayed healthy through the whole cycle.
Stayed healthy
Yeah.
through the whole cycle. Like mentally, I felt really good, really fresh, which is really rare for me. I mean, I've talked openly about my struggles as well. And for any of you who saw my first ultra video, Altering Expectations, the Oregon Coast, like that is typically how I go into an ultra specifically. It's like anxiety is insane and basically debilitating.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that race day anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have any of that this time.
You were really worried about cutoffs. You always are. Every race since Oregon Coast, Kim has, even marathons that we would run before we ran ultras, Kim would be, I'm going to be the last person swept up by the buses, or I'm going to be the last person out there. And, you know, as your partner and husband, it's easy for me to go, well, that's not going to happen. Like that never happens.
Mhm.
Every time you worry about it, it doesn't happen. But even with this one, with all the training and all the confidence, and we obviously had full faith that you'd be able to get it done, there's still the worry that you were going to get swept.
Yeah, I didn't start worrying about cutoffs until like a day or two before the race, I think is when I started
it was
to
the
like
week
kind of
before.
focusing on
Yeah.
like worrying about not making cutoffs and how I would approach that and how it would feel, because I feel like I've been putting in a lot of hard work. And I think sometimes it feels like I'm beating my head against a wall.
Mhm.
Like I just want to get better and I just want to get faster, but yet I'm still like I'm still very much back of the packer, and that's just something I just kind of need to embrace a little bit better. But yeah, I was definitely worried about not making the cutoff. The first cutoff was around the 50K mark and it was 11 hours. And that seems super generous, but it's not like your typical first 50K of a race.
Right.
I think there's
It's a
close to
very
like
different.
around 8,000 feet of gain.
Mhm.
And the 110K starts at 4 a.m. So we had almost 3 hours of darkness also to contend with, which always can potentially slow you down if you're not used to running in the dark too. So
You also have lots of weight on your shoulders. It's a 50K
Yeah.
with 2 aid stations. So you basically have aid station 1 and 2. That's it.
Right.
So
and all the mandatory gear Jamil was talking about for the 100 miler, we also had the same mandatory gear. So there was 8 items that I had to have. It was a whistle, an emergency bivy, a long sleeve shirt, long pants, headlamp on you at all times, gloves, toque. What am I missing?
socks, I don't remember that. Bandages, bear banger, all the bear stuff was optional. Bear
There's
bell.
8 pieces. I'm missing one.
Let's do it again. Toque, gloves, jacket, pants.
Jacket. I didn't say jacket.
Oh, jacket. Well, yeah, waterproof jacket.
And a waterproof jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have all that mandatory gear. Plus, I wanted to take an extra set of gloves because I have really bad hand circulation. So when my hands start getting cold, I have a hard time like using my hands. So I had an extra set of gloves on top of my extra set of gloves. And then plus all your fuel and plus all your water in case things take longer. So yeah, so I'd been training with a full pack
Mhm.
for like my last number of very long runs, just trying to like prep myself for that. But even still, it's just like it's a lot of extra weight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just a lot of things that you were prepared going into it. What were the things that you maybe encountered that you weren't expecting?
Let me see. I feel like everything I came across, I kind of was expecting. I do think that one of the very first, it might have been the very first climb. I think I told you when I rolled into the first aid station, I was like, that first climb was more savage than I thought.
Mhm.
I think that's what I said to you.
Mhm.
Because I knew it was going to be what it was going to be. But on paper, it looks like one thing. But I had never touched those trails myself
Right,
ever.
right.
So once you get there and it's pitch black and you're kind of doing the climbing, it's like, oh yeah, it's getting real already.
Right. It was you were also sick.
Yeah. So uh on Ethan's race last Saturday, I was dealing with some gastro problems in like a terrible way that nobody wants to hear me talk about, but I was. And like even when I was trying to pace Ethan, I was like ducking off into the bushes and I was just having all sorts of like really bad stomach stuff going down. And that just didn't really resolve itself all week. So we're not like at first I thought it was maybe food poisoning, because our friend Caitlin was also kind of dealing with the same sort of problem last weekend. So I was like, "Oh, it'll pass. Everything will feel better." But I just like it didn't resolve itself all week.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of went into this race going, "I hope it's gonna be fine."
Well, right. Yeah. Anytime you go into an event like this, you're like, I hope it resolves itself, or I hope that it doesn't
Get
flare up.
worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cause an issue
Yeah.
during the
Yeah.
race. So you were taking in calories fine, at least to that first aid station. We emptied your pack. We
Yeah.
did the full
Mhm.
redo, and like you were right on the money. You were ahead of your splits by close to 30 minutes, I think.
Yeah, I think I rolled into the first aid station 30 minutes under my
Estimated. Yeah, it's
estimated
hard to
and then
estimate
like
this
an
one. Yeah.
hour under my second estimated. So, I was running uh and this is not like braggy. I was running faster and stronger, and I keep using the words like more confidently and braver because I felt like that was kind of what I was telling myself throughout the morning was just kind of like go for it and do like the Courtney Dauwalter pedal almost to the metal and just kind of see what happens.
Yeah.
So I was running that style, but also still very much back of the pack. So, but I was feeling good. I was eating well. Thought I was drinking pretty well, but I just couldn't keep anything in from like very early on.
That ultimately left you at a calorie deficiency. So
Right.
when you came into aid station 2, like you can tell when a runner comes in and they're in a bad place, or if they got their shit together, but they're trying to problem solve. And Kim came into aid station 2 how I imagine I came into some aid stations at Headlands, where everything was coherent. It's like, here are my problems, and I'm trying to figure out the problems. You could tell that she was in a great headspace. She wanted to continue on and she wanted to keep pushing it. But
I was also having fun.
yeah, and you said that so many times. You're like, I'm having so much fun, but I can't keep food in.
And like
So
my stomach was so
sore.
sore.
Like you
Like
kept
it
saying
was
it was so sore.
sore. So I was trying,
Yeah.
I mean, I ate at aid station 2, I ate a little bit of solid food, just to try and throw in that mix. And
You said that sort of started to trigger the gag reflex again.
yeah, so like it wasn't
Yeah.
too long after I left aid station 2 where I started actually throwing up and dry heaving and all this other kind of stuff. And just like, it was really difficult because I felt like my legs and my body and everything felt amazing. Like I felt like I was climbing a little less than stellar, but on the descents, I was catching and passing people every time I would hit a descent. So it was frustrating to feel like whatever was going on in my digestive system, it was so out of my control, and I felt like I couldn't
Solve it.
solve that problem.
Yeah.
And it was to the point where like my stomach was so sore that even like the sips of water, it started becoming like really challenging for me. But like I'm like, I know I have to keep sipping water because if I don't, then it's going to be a big, big problem.
So the problem is that after aid station 2, it's 13 and a half miles, close to 20. No, it's like over 3,000 feet of gain. I forget what the split is, but it's over 3,000 feet of gain, 13 and a half miles until we see her again. No aid stations at all. So
No,
it's a long stretch. And if you don't leave aid station 2 with what you need or with your problem solved, it's inevitably going to get worse because you're limited to what you have in your back. And unfortunately, it sounds like despite the fact that section is tough and had lots of big climbs and stuff to sort of slow you down, allow the stomach to try to right itself, it didn't end up happening.
Correct. Yeah. I felt like I was still eating. I was still doing my best to kind of stay on my like taking in food, even though I wasn't keeping anything in. But because I started getting so low and deficient on calories coming down one of the final descents, I started getting lightheaded and I started getting dizzy. And for anyone who's been on that course, well, it wasn't like the major climb or the major technical aspect of the race. There are a couple of those danger slow signs that Jamil talked about. There's 2 of them on that last descent, and I started making poor footing choices, which could have caused a major problem. It's not like a no fall, you're gonna die if you fall off here, but it's like, if you fall off here, it's probably gonna be some sort of rescue.
Something's bad.
Yeah.
When Kim came into aid station 3, she was an hour and a half ahead of her predicted times, plus an hour and a half ahead of cutoffs. Plenty of time. But the first thing out of her mouth was, I'm having so much fun, but I'm really lightheaded and I'm making bad choices and I can't keep food in. So there was like, as the crew, and this is a very similar sort of thing that we dealt with the Oregon Coast thing, but when you're a spouse or when you're a crew captain and a spouse, they have to kind of live in different worlds sometimes. Because as the crew captain, you're like, let's solve this problem. Let's figure it out. Let's see if we can't right this ship and get her back out on the trail. But also the husband's like, fuck, I just want you to like lay down and I want you to take care of yourself.
I don't want you to fall off a mountain.
I don't want you to fall off a mountain. There's no glory in that. But you were very much like, let's try to figure this out. You didn't come in.
Yeah.
You had told me that you had spent the last few miles thinking through what you needed to do. You were prepared to drop, not that you wanted to, because you didn't.
Right.
But you needed to like take some time. And that was something that you and I talked about going into this race beforehand. Like you had helped me do that at Headlands.
Right.
Because at Headlands, the turnaround, I was just ready to be done. But Kim's like, let's just sit and let's just try to figure this out.
Yeah, because sometimes things will just sort themselves out. Stephanie Tatum in the chat room says, which one was aid station 3 for 110K? It was the Whistler Athletic Center.
Yes. Yeah.
It was right before. So it would have been just right before we went up the Whistler climb. So in those last couple of miles before I hit the aid station, I knew I had lots of time. Cutoffs were not a worry, which was surprising to me, but also reflected how I felt about my training going to this. But I definitely thought about the bigger picture and what risks were worth taking at that point. And I was thinking about, like, I'm not keeping food in. I am starting to get a little dizzy, a little lightheaded. Is it a good place to send myself out on the biggest climb of the race by myself where I wouldn't see crew or an aid station for hours, heading into the dark, heading into the weather?
It to be frank, it was a really rough position to be in because even in that 90 minutes, had she gotten in the calories she needed and managed to right her ship and like left with that, okay, I think, I can keep food in. The food that I just ate is staying in. Let's try to grind this out. It would have been nerve wracking as all get up for me because the next section before I get to see her again is actually closer to 20 plus miles.
Right.
Because it's 8.5 miles to the top of Whistler and it's 12.5 miles down from the top. There's one aid station at the top. The climb up is 5,100 feet in 8 miles. There's, like Jamil talked about during the show, and what we had heard from a lot of people is that there's chain sections, there's like platforms you have to get up to, and it's gnarly. It's a super gnarly climb, and Kim would be going into the night
and into the weather.
And if there's any sort of calorie deficiency, if you can't keep food in or you're lightheaded or any of that sort of thing, it's just, it came to the point where it was a full-on safety call.
Right.
And it's one of those where you just like, you don't want to make it because your brain was working.
Yeah, like that I think I would say that was the most frustrating thing is like I posted a picture today where I'm like smiling at the aid station and I like was coherent. I was having a good time.
Her brain was
mentally
there,
I had
totally snappy.
I had a really good day mentally. My legs, like everything was feeling really good.
No slurred
I just
speech,
could
nothing.
not keep food in. So that part was frustrating. On the other hand, it was like at some point you just need to like realize what you've actually done in the day and accept that as being something really cool and something to celebrate. And getting to almost 50K, that's not nothing.
And you said that before going into this race is like, you'd be happy with that 50K because it's a very hard 50K.
Right.
You weren't like 50K wasn't your stopping point.
Correct.
You were there for the 110.
Right.
But the 50K is that mark on this course where you do have to make a decision. Like if you're feeling good, you're good. But that climb up Whistler, you can't just go half-ass it, or you can't be in a compromised state, I think is the best way to phrase it, going up, because then you're putting yourself at risk. You're putting the race at risk. You're doing lots of things that are just bad for everybody. It was a really hard call, and you could see it in your face. It
Yeah.
was not something that you just made lightly.
No, we sat there for a while, and
Sat
you
there for
guys
an hour
tried to
and a
get me to
half.
take food.
Like,
And instead I was taking multiple bathroom breaks.
yeah,
and like
Kim did exactly what before the race, what we had talked about, which I had done for her. I was like, just give me the time. If you come in and something's wrong, just give me the time, and let's see if we can't just like sit and eat.
Yeah.
And because food is amazing and it can get you through anything. It didn't help. It made things worse.
Just like movement made things worse. Like I think
you stood up and
I stood up and started walking a little bit, and I was like,
we need to go to the
bathroom.
porta potties.
Yeah. So yes, that's a glamorous part of ultra running.
Yeah.
And
Also,
like whatever is going on with my stomach. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that the aid station captain for that aid station was really kind and really, really generous.
Yeah,
with his time.
I found out his name from Wing Taylor.
Okay.
His name is Mark Kennedy, and I think I had heard that he's actually not the aid station captain, but there's another guy who was captain. But Mark Kennedy was one of the like best volunteers I think I've ever come across in a race for the situation that I was in.
He made it his job.
Yeah.
Like, what do you need?
And he was even like, I'm gonna give you guys space. I'll come back and check in 15 minutes. Is that good? I'm like, yeah, that's amazing.
Because there's I'm gonna email Gary about this separately, but there was a point when the sweepers were right on the back of the last runners coming in, like at aid station 1 and 2. The sweepers were like right on them, even though they didn't need to be there for another. So let's say the cutoff at this aid station was 3 p.m. They needed to arrive at like 2:50, really. But they were there right after the last runner. Like you could tell that they were just waiting for that last runner to get in, and then they like, great, we're done with our run. Let's swap out. And the problem is that if you're at the back of the pack runner and you can feel the presence of the sweepers, it's not great because especially if you have an hour and a half buffer,
right?
Like you actually you're not getting swept. You have an hour and a half, but it can lead to undue pressure, which can lead to them maybe pushing their pace. Or didn't happen to you, but I saw it happening, and I was like, oh man, the last thing I want is for Kim to be sitting here just like eating calories, and the sweeper's just like, hey, you gonna go? Because we need to go, or we really want to go. Like, we ended up making the call like just before the cutoff. You turned in your bib. It was like
like half an hour before the cutoff or something like that.
Okay.
I think something like that.
I debated like, let's just sit for the 30 minutes, and then it becomes a time cutoff thing. But it was one of those where there was no. I mean, the ship still hasn't righted.
Correct. The ship still hasn't righted. I see Maria Dalzet's in the chat room, and I feel like I need to send her an email, see if she can help me get my like gut right.
Yeah, Maria would be one of those people to
on.
absolutely reach out to and see if we can't figure it out. But this is for those of you who maybe aren't ultra runners, or maybe you're looking at this as like, wow, 50K, that's amazing, or that sort of thing, or I can't believe you dealt with this sort of thing. The problems that we dealt with like this they're pretty common actually. So you might find yourself in a very similar situation. Just know that there are remedies or things that you can do, and we're going to try to figure this out. Like Maria is a perfect example of someone that can probably help you try to figure out these problems if they happen for you. But yeah, when they happen in a race like this, you just don't fuck with it, because high alpine, and again, Gary said this is it. This is an expert level race. You just don't mess around with the high alpine.
Right.
Safety is of utmost importance.
But to kind of summarize my day, I have no regrets. I woke up a little sad this morning. Like this morning was kind of my like, a little bummed out about it. But the reality of it all is I did what I said I was going to do. I trained really hard, and my coach, Ethan's coach also, David, before my race, he kind of reached out and he said, don't hold back too much. Like, put yourself out there and see what happens. And if you're a little gassed after 50K, that's fine. You're a little gassed after 50K, but you won't regret how you ran those early miles. And that's kind of the name of the game for me. And I ran like I've never run in a race before. And I think that is my major takeaway from this is maybe I am starting to change a little bit as a runner and um, kind of embrace that side of me and kind of run a little more willy-nilly, but in a good way.
Right. The first thing out of your mouth was when you came into Aid Station 3 was, here's what I've been thinking for the last few miles, based off of where you were. Then the second thing out of your mouth was, I can't wait for next year. You were so like still in the zone and so disappointed that your body wasn't following suit. Like your legs were working. There was a point when your legs weren't climbing well, but you're like, but I'm descending like a boss.
Yeah.
So you were basically like, I'm not going to climb well, but I'm going to descend like a boss. And you would catch people on all the descents, and it was awesome to see. But your mind was there, your legs were there, but your body wasn't ready to play. But you were already thinking about next year, and I was like, that is boss. That is awesome, and that is a Kim that I haven't seen in a long time.
Because it's like that's the other thing is it's like you walk away from this and like yes, it's a DNF, and I didn't get a finish. But also, I have all these other things in my toolbox for next year for like a next race that I might approach a little bit differently or more confidently, or like going into WAM next year, assuming I'm still training as well. I can put that worry about cutoffs kind of over to the side and not give it energy.
Yeah.
Or not give it as much energy. So
there's lots of stories in the chat room here, just kind of regarding people's own stories with stomach stuff. And Heather says, while you may not have had the races you wanted, it sounds like you had the races you needed. Both of you are so inspiring. Heather, I couldn't agree more. I think a part of me kind of thought this weekend, I joked with Kim, I'm like, man, look at the Newberries, 0 for 2. Like, wow.
I think you made a joke of like
2019,
gotta
the year of the
pull a
failures.
Newberry.
Yeah, don't pull a Newberry. And I say it in jest because, of course, like it's our 2 big A races of the year. We both did not finish them. So there's no denying that we did not complete what we set out to do. But I know I look back on my race as, a full success. There are so many things I'm still pulling from this race. Like I'm more fired up now than I have been in so long about what my next project is. Like I'm talking to my coach today about what's next. Like what can we start planning now? Because my body got rocked at Headlands, but it recovered pretty quickly. And I feel like I can probably get back into it. I don't feel like nearly as wrecked as I was after Cascade Crest. And I'm like, I want to do my diligence and give it time to recover. But I'm also like, maybe there's something fun that we can do before the end of the year. Maybe a couple of things. And I know that you're thinking the same thing. You're like, it was a really hard 50K, but you're like, Kim was walking around the next day.
I was disappointed that I wasn't wrecked. From it.
Yeah.
I think I put in my running log that I woke up feeling a little disappointed, but also I felt like I hadn't really worked and that I felt like I had a bunch of rage inside of me.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to go find a race, but we can, we've been really into sort of like coming up with unique challenges for ourselves. And like, now that we did Tiger Claw, there's new ideas that are kind of popping in my head of like, oh, what if we did this thing? And like, what if we tested this?
Puppy paw.
So I don't know. I look at it just like you did, Heather. I really appreciate that these aren't failures. These are, if anything, these are like exactly what we needed them to be. And it's really easy to sit on these non-finishes as like, what are people going to think? Like, we've been so successful for so long and we have 2 of these DNFs back to back. Like, are people going to look at us differently or the channel differently or any of that sort of thing? And it's easy to get sidelined with that sort of thought process. But it's really important to stick to this is always about the journeys that we're on individually. Kim's journey, my journey. We obviously share many of these journeys together, and we share them with you because you are part of the crew, and we can talk openly, obviously, about everything that goes on behind the scenes here. And it feels like this is an important step. We needed to have these sorts of failures to learn more about our victories. And yeah, I, for one, haven't been this jazzed to figure out what the next thing is in a long time. And it feels great.
Yeah.
I didn't think a DNF could feel so good. Should do it more often.
I mean, having said that, yeah.
I'm good with that one.
Yeah. Just one.
I mean, if it needs to happen again, it will. But I'm also like, I'm really excited to just see if there's something out there that I can do and actually finish. And
And also, like, it's like in the grand scheme of things, when you zoom out, like a DNFing a race that you are signing up to do for fun, like that's not the end of the world and it's not a huge problem,
Right.
really. Like it might feel that way in the moment, but for me personally, it's the crazy hard stuff that actually excites me. So yeah, I'm probably gonna expect some DNFs in my life.
Yeah. The hard stuff is awesome. We both tend to gravitate towards the really, really hard things. And I totally dig that. Uh, and I think my heart is now kind of becoming, I don't know. There's like different tests, like technical terrain is hard. Lots of vert is hard. But there's also like Headlands had that loop based thing, and I didn't know how to handle it because I've done loop based stuff before, but not 25-mile loops. And there was a point where I was on a part of this, I talked about it last week. I was on a part of the trail. I was like, this is going to be mile 95. And I was at mile 55 or whatever it was, or 45. And I was like, how am I going to? That was a mental aspect that I'd never thought of before. Is I'm seeing what I'm going to see in 10 hours. And I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't want it. This isn't fun. So I don't know. There's lots of cool things that we're discovering, and like challenges are more than just the numbers of things. Maybe there are other parts of it that are challenging.
I also want to give a shout out to Stephanie Tatum in the chat room.
Yes.
Stephanie made it 150 kilometers in 39 hours during the Whistler 100 miler. So huge congrats to you, Stephanie, for making it that far. And Stephanie went on to say, people have been saying that, sorry, you didn't finish, but honestly, I'm so proud that I accomplished what I did. And I think, yeah, it depends on who you talk to. You're going to get different responses. And we talked about that a little bit with your DNF of like people feeling sorry or like
Yeah.
coming into that rather than saying like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because really, like not every, like a very small fraction of people on this planet are doing a very small fraction of that, Stephanie, or like what you've done, Ethan, or even what I did.
Mhm.
So it's like, you got to celebrate it or try and figure out how to celebrate it. Even if you can't in the moment, it's also okay to be sad about it. You know?
Yeah, it's we talked about it again after the Headlands thing, but I had a lot of people the day after just saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry. You know, it sucks. I'm so sorry I didn't get it done." And it kind of sucked because I wasn't in a sad mood. I wasn't in like a disappointed state. And it's kind of hard to correct people and be like, "Actually, this was the biggest victory I've had in a long time." So, it's good. Some people only look at it as a results based thing, right? And I remember saying for the last couple of years in my New Year's resolutions videos, I say I don't want it to be about the results. It's never going to be about the results. It's going to be about the experiences that come as a result of these adventures. I filmed a little bit of Kim's weekend. I'm not sure what we're going to do with it. I'm not sure what. I don't know what that is. I wish this setup was.
Or you labeled them.
Oh, that would be one way to do it. The setup doesn't work exactly how I want it. I just don't know how I can get it to work exactly how I want, unfortunately. Oh, maybe there. Yeah, I think there is a way I can figure it out. Anyways, what's going on?
Jay Brown in the chat room says, what are the winters like up there? Are you guys going to do much cross training this winter? Or are you able to continue to run? We can basically run all year here. There was like a couple weeks that there was a lot of snow, but we ran through most of it anyways. Yeah.
And if there's snow, there's skiing. So, yeah, we are able to run through pretty much everything here. It rains. We have some rain right now, which is really welcomed because it's been the driest summer in forever. But yeah, they make jackets for a reason. We run through pretty much everything.
You heard it here first,
you
folks.
heard it here first.
They make jackets for a reason.
They sure do. But yeah, we're very fortunate. Pacific Northwest is great. It does get cold sometimes, but like Kim said,
it's usually only for like a couple days.
Yeah, and if it snows, you can run through it, and it's fun, snowshoeing and all that, or ski. Yeah, that's what we do. Stephanie says, Ginger Runner, that's the way I feel too. This is the farthest I've ever run and the longest time, and I'm good with it. That's what's amazing, Stephanie. That's fantastic.
I'm sad we didn't get to see you though.
Yeah, I know. It would have been awesome.
We need to see a lot of people. I think just the way the races were kind of laid out.
Yeah, Ingen puts it correctly. Usually deliciously runnable all winter long.
And Ingen actually thought about you on the race because there was chanterelles. And I didn't stop to dilly-dally to pick any.
Yeah, Ingen found a stash of chanterelle mushrooms.
Don't say where.
I'm not gonna, They found a cool secret stash of chanterelle mushrooms on a trail somewhere here near Seattle. And it's kind of one of those, how did you find those?
And then I found some.
And then Kim found some, and we haven't picked them. We're not that confident yet in our shroom pickage. But apparently fresh chanterelles are supposed to be incredible, like chopped up, sauteed in fresh butter, some herbs, salt, pepper, and they're supposed to be like insane. I wouldn't know. I've never had one. Is that true?
I don't know. If you've had... Go to bed.
Everyone who registered for GRGR, you're going to start getting your shirts here soon. If you're international, you will get yours first. Brett at Territory sent out the international orders first, just so we can make sure that you get them all before October 13th. You should have gotten an email with the tracking. Make sure that you follow that tracking, because once it gets to this is what happens with international orders, is that once it gets to your country border, sometimes it says out for delivery or being delivered, and then the status never updates. Go check your local post office, because they may just hold it and not tell you and wait for you to come get it. So we put it in all the emails, that note. You should have already seen that. U.S. or domestic GRGR participants, you should be getting yours
soon.
Yeah, they basically are sending them out next week.
Just really quick, somebody had a question about the gear that I used. I'll just do like a very, very, very quick rundown. Injinji Ultra Socks, Hoka Speed Goats.
They weren't the Evo ones.
Not the Evo ones. I feel like the Evos are a little narrow for me, but I took them just in case. But yeah, Hoka Speed Goats. I actually wore this rabbit top.
You loved it.
I love this shirt so much that I got home yesterday and washed it so I could wear it again today.
Yeah.
It is so soft. It is so soft. It's the Easy T long sleeve, and I wore rabbit shorts. I think they're the Catch Me If You Can, and tiger claw hat.
Mm-hmm. Representative.
Ginger Runner Gus wrap.
Yeah.
And then I actually used your watch.
Yeah.
The
Koros
Apex, which was amazing. And then my pack, as I mentioned, was the big Salomon 12L.
Yeah.
Pack.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I had multiple jackets and stuff like that and pants that I didn't end up using, but I hauled around all day.
I'm actually going to do a gear video this week of everything I used at Headlands. Just sort of a breakdown of piece by piece by piece. I think it's going to be one of this. It'll be this week's early video, because I didn't do a video last week. So I think it's going to kind of fit the last week's video because of timing. And then we'll do a separate review video this week. So look forward to that. Look forward to Kim firing up her channel here soon. We have Ryan Thrower now editing a lot of our review stuff. He's coming in and helping out hugely, which is why we introduced him on our GR Crew Live very recently, because he's just been such a huge help in alleviating some of the editing pressures. So he's going to basically, we're going to throw as many reviews as we can at him, and that's going to include some Kim reviews, which you've been dying to do. You're so excited to get back to it.
Stephanie, yes, I did use polls. Stephanie asked if I use polls. I started with polls, and I'm glad I started with polls.
We were so tired as crew. We're not complaining. There was a point where we were delirious enough where we went through the car trying to find your polls while you were running. Like, we need them for 8 Station 2. Where are they? And we're like pulling everything out of the car. And then finally one of it, I think it was Darren, just went, dude, she has her polls. And I went, oh my God, you're right.
But also, you probably had your set, and he probably had his set.
He had his set.
There was probably all sorts of sets of polls.
Yeah, he had his set, and I had my set. And I was like, these aren't Kim's. There should be 3 sets.
What were the polls?
Black Diamond Z pole, Z carbon. Z carbon. So many people break the Z carbons. Ours are like perfect.
I had some moments on there where a pole slipped through some boulders, and I was like, I'm going to snap this pole.
Oh, you're on that technical stuff, like boulder holes.
Yes.
Oof, spicy.
It was
spicy meatball.
It was like mild spicy compared to the second half, but yeah.
Still pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. And if you have any questions, again, for Kim and her 110K, obviously she's all over social media. So like tweet at her or Instagram or whatever. I'm sure you'll be happy to answer any additional questions.
Yeah.
All the love to you guys. We really appreciate everything, of course. This is, GR Crew. The logo is coming. So I had this moment of inspiration with the logo creation. I was like, I need a logo that sort of kind of ties everyone together. And so for the next couple of days, I'm gonna really lock this down because this new idea I think is the direction I wanted. I was trying to think of what is a way that we can sort of connect everyone, because the whole part of being the crew is that we're a community. And I had this idea of uh, individually we are trees, but together we're a forest. We are stronger as a group than we are on our own. And so the idea is that there will be trees in the logo, of course, but we together are a forest, but uniquely are trees. And just with that sort of mentality, I want to create this GR Crew logo based off of that. So there'll be some elements that sort of bring that into the actual logo. The logo we'll put on whatever you guys want. So we're thinking about making some hats with it, some shirts with it, some additional things that people can rock out there on the trails, just to represent that you are a member of this forest, essentially. So yeah, get excited because I'm putting it together now, and I'm happy with the direction it's going.
Yay, 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 yay,
Yeah,
yay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love that idea.
Yeah, I just kept thinking. I think that's the sad trombone. I think that's the magical things. I'll just do it all. Look at all
Nobody's been
those.
saying they've been hearing them, so I wonder if they're not playing.
Oh, are you guys hearing the sound effects? Did someone say they weren't hearing the sound effects?
No, nobody said anything.
Oh.
Let's just sit here with sad faces.
Oh, it's because the chat's delayed. So we're sitting here waiting for the chat to say, yeah, we hear those weird noises that you just did. Yay, can't wait. Kim and Ethan, you guys rock, and your headspace around your races this past weeks have helped me get really excited about racing again. Nice, Ingen. That's fantastic. Ingen crushed Tiger Claw last year. I hear them.
Oh,
Yay,
boy.
Stephanie Tatum hears them.
Oh, it's happy laughter.
It was happy laughter. Yeah, A2B2. Yes. Bright Sense. Yes.
I'm glad
yes.
that's how we ended the show.
The fact that they're just giving us yeses means
yeah,
yes,
you
we hear them.
guys, we hear them. We
get
don't
it.
care.
No. Thank you, everybody. We'll talk soon. Get out there, train hard, race harder, party hardest.
I know I am. Gus is too. Thanks, guys.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.